Hey man, Shalom. Double honors to the apostles of GMS. Honest you brothers, I'll be pushing this truth and sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth, right? And as I like always to start off, but give you an update of what's going out there in the in the world right now, man. You're beginning to see the collapse of different financial structures and so on and so forth, whether it be businesses, monetary systems, all right? You're seeing the Mosai wreaking all kind of havoc out there within the Middle East, all right? Which is all, prophesied within the scriptures, if the Lord will. We'll get those scriptures out, man. All right, because we're getting in that time to where, all kind of things is going to be happening, man. All kind of things is going to be popping up, man. Right? For instance, the mark of the beast, that's still going to be implemented on a global scale, all right? To where you're going to be forcibly put, they're going to forcibly put that on you, man. All right, you can see you got a lot of scoffers within the realm of Israel, man. That know that they know that they're the truth of the Most High, know who's got the truth, namely the men at GMS. All right, but they want to do their own thing. Why? Because they're more concerned about being comfortable, right? In Esau society. But we know through the scriptures that the time is short right now, man. Right, see, when you get into studying all of these different things that are happening out here, all right, how they're different technological advancements and what they're moving to, it all coincides not only with the scriptures, but also the things that the elders have been prophesying from the longest, and also you got these so-called what do they call them, preppers, man. All of the preppers know about the so-called mark of the beast, which is the RFID chip, man. All right, and you see all kind of technological advancements, namely, you got your so-called your bank card's got an RFID chip in it, your travel card's got RFID chip in it, your passport's got RFID chip in it. If you want to update your so-called travel information, right, you have to take biometric information. So what does that go to show you, man? They're moving ever closer to, unifying all of those different systems. All right, to where first thing that they implemented about 2 years ago is the fact now that you can travel, right, on your bus systems just using your so-called bank card, man. So they're getting rid of the so-called travel cards. All right, now you're going to be able to, further on into the future, you're just going to be able to travel with your bank card. And now they're going to say, well, how are we going to prove whose bank card it is or anything like that, some kind of security incident or something like that. Or they might just go straight into a false flag and have it to where the next false flag happens, they're just going to forcibly implement that. All right, because when you had this guy Obama come into the office, he had it on the bill, he had it on legislation to where they was gonna have that put out there, man, forcibly put out there. All right, but now they kind of backtrack on that because people were finding out more about it. All right, but in the scripture, when you go into the scriptures, it says, "Though it tarry, wait for it, man." So although it looks like that RFID thing is tarrying, right, and hence, they're coming down on this society. Although it looks like it's tarrying, really it's not tarrying, man. All right, you gotta wait for it, man. You gotta be patient in this thing, man. This ain't a thing. This ain't a 100-meter sprint. All right, this is a marathon, All right, and the scripture says, "Enter ye into the straight gates." Matter of fact, I might as well start on that, which is gonna be in. You can see that in the book of get a one in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 7th chapter, and the 6th verse. It says, "There is another thing: a city is builded, right, upon a broad field, and is filled full of good things." All right. Namely, when we get into when we get into our own society, man. Right, when the Most High establishes Israel, which is the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, as the praise upon the earth. All right, the Most High is going to set it up to where we're going to have our own kingdom. That's spoken about in the book of Revelations, man. Right, when you go into the scriptures, it says, you ain't going to find rest amongst the nations, these different nations, the Elamites, the Ammonites, right, the Hamites, right, the Moabites, the Ammonites, you wasn't the Edomites, especially the Edomites, because the Edomites have been our enemies since the inception of Jacob and Esau, man. All right? The scripture says, when you go into the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter, the scripture says, when Jacob and Esau were in the womb of Rebecca, but they were fighting against each other. Why? Because from when you go back to the reincarnation, when you go back onto You right there, man?
Sorry, I'm just listening.
You can listen. You can ask questions. What religion are you?
I'm not religious.
You're not religious. Oh, right. Okay. Well, if you're not religious, then what you studying? You do anything like that?
I believe in God.
You believe in You believe in God. So that's good. So you're not into religion, but you believe in God. That's good. Because religion, right? Religion really was set up by the dominant. You don't have to go on the camera, you know. But religion was set up really for the control of the masses of the people. What do you do? What you into? What you do?
I do parkour.
Sorry?
I do parkour.
Oh, right. Okay, cool. All right. Okay. Free running is good too. All right. It's you use your body and all of that. It's a bit better than that bodybuilding crap. That's a bit more useful. All right. But getting back onto the topic, like you say, you believe that there is a God. All right. So ultimately, you must believe, although it might seem religious to you, but the Most High always had it to where the scriptures were going to come out. All right. Now, first and foremost, I ain't no religion. I don't deal with religion. We don't deal with religion. All right. The men that I fall under, we don't deal with no religion. All right. Now, if you believe there is a God, then you're gonna believe, whether it's in a small inkling or a big inkling, that He's gonna save somebody, right? Right? Because there's an all-out destruction coming. You know that, right? With the thing that's happening out there in Russia, right? And within the Middle East, what do you think about that?
I'm too ignorant. I don't know.
Okay, cool.
I could make an opinion. I can make an opinion.
What's your opinion? It's nothing wrong in admitting you're ignorant, because if you go into a school, well, you gotta recognize you're ignorant when you're learning stuff. Pretty much what's happening out there in the Middle East, that's spoken about within the scriptures. All right, that's spoken about within the Bible. All right, when it talks about Magog, right, it's talking about Russia. Right, within the book of Ezekiel. All right, when it talks about Babylon, that's talking about America. All right, because you know what the word Babylon means? Right, it simply means land of confusion. Babel meaning confusion, land meaning lands. It's the land of confusion. All right, that's where the confusion within society perpetuates from. America. All the homosexuality, America. All right, if you can only marry one woman, America. All right, the monetary system. All right, do you really believe that the money you have in your pocket is money? It's not money. It was a promise that you was going to get a certain amount of gold, right, from the so-called bankers, right, that you gave your gold to, and they gave you receipts, IOUs. That makes sense. So you got an IOU, right, so that you can get that gold amount. That piece of paper doesn't actually mean anything, right? And that only accounts for maybe 10% of the money that's actually out there. 90% comes from the fractional reserve banking. Do you know what fractional reserve banking is? Fractional reserve banking is, if you get £10, right, you put £10 in the bank, they're liable to give out £9. Where did the £9 come from? They're making it up. Do you know what Ford the car company, right? They had the owner, Henry Ford, the guy that came with founded Ford. He said if people knew how money was made and controlled, they would uprise against their so-called the bankers. Right? And I'm not talking about your everyday banker within there, because that's a peon. The bankers is your Rothschild. You know about the Rothschilds. You must know about the Rothschilds, right? The Rockefellers, right? The DuPonts, and so on and so forth. Those are the elite banking families. They're the ones that set the prices of oil, right? You see that thing you had out there in Russia, and Russia was not Russia, sorry, in the Middle East, and they're selling oil at about $50 a barrel at the minute, all right? Because the price of oil has gone down in the Middle East, because all of a sudden they found oil in USA. That's all marketplace, man. Right? That's all what they know as proximity wars, for lack of a better term. All right, that's all currency wars. It's known as currency wars. All right, but all of that's amalgamating to what you're gonna know as World War III, man. All right, because when you take money away from someone, what do? They become desperate. All right, when you take money away from the country, what are they gonna do? The people are gonna rise up against the government. The government's gonna get desperate. Right? So what they did out there in Russia with the currency wars, right? The Russian people are going to get desperate. Especially when you go to where America's sending battleships right on the Caspian Sea, which is pretty much on the borders of Russia, right? And now America's got garrisons. You know what a garrison is?
Yeah, like, yeah.
just like a military base, you call it today, right? They got military bases, Latvia, Lithuania, all the way down on the borders of Russia, man. And that's spoken about in the book of Joel, the 3rd chapter.
So what's your aim?
The aim is really to, the scripture says to go through the midst of the city, the midst of Jerusalem, right? As you see, I'm in the midst of the city, the midst of Jerusalem, talking about the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, and wherever they have been descended to. Because, like you, I think you're a Jake, man. I think you're a descendant of black people. Where you from, man?
Norway.
You're from Norway. So you could be a descendant of one of the empires that was set up by the so-called black rulers during the so-called Dark Ages, which was the 1500s. Right? You might be a descendant of them. You two have a different vibe, man. You have a different vibe, man. All right, because prior to the 1500s, the 1600s, 1600s, you was in a time that was known as the Dark Ages, because the dark people were in rulership. All right, and all the way throughout Europe, right, all the way out into Russia and so on and so forth, you had an empire set up by so-called dark nations, right? Because it's not a color thing. At the end of the day, it's not a color thing, because a dark person will have sex with a white person, the child comes later. If you're a king and you got wives, so what's your son gonna do? He's gonna have more sex with women of all different nations. So the color thing is really that's just the premise of it, right? Really, this is about the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, but more deeper than that, it's about the Israelites, the real Israelites, right? And how they're gonna come out of the oppressed state that they're in now, and they're gonna be rulers over their masters, which, like I mentioned before, elite banking families, man. All right, but like I was saying, man, I believe you're an Israelite, man. Just by your spirit, man. I believe you're a descendant of one of our people out there in Norway, because we had kingdoms out there in Norway, man. York, all of these things that you're seeing out here, they weren't built by so-called white people, man. Not to put it out like that, all right. Don't get offended by that. Don't see the simplicity of the statement. It wasn't. If I'll put it in biblical terms, it wasn't built up by Edomites, but you ain't gonna understand the word Edomites. All right, do you know about Jacob and Esau within the scriptures?
No.
Jacob.
Esau.
I'll have to know the story.
Right, so pretty much you had Rebecca, right, who was married onto Isaac. I gotta remember the history now. There's so much information, but if I remember right off the top of my head, when you go into Genesis, the 25th chapter, you had Rebecca. She had twins, and then the twins struggled within her womb, right? But that was to represent what the state they was going to be in right now. Right, namely that we was going to struggle back and forth, Jacob and Esau, the white people and the black people. Pretty simplest, but it goes deeper than that. All right, but the Israelites against the Edomites. All right, and when the two sons grew up, right, Esau was a cunning hunter, and Jacob was that one. You know, so you know it. So you believe you're into the scriptures a little bit then. All right, okay, you believe in God, isn't it?
In a way.
Yeah, in a way, all right, because you know that the church is madness, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, all right, okay. So I can kind of see where you're coming from. Sorry?
What do you fall under?
I fall under the banner of the true Israelites. That's what banner I fall under. I fall under the banner of the scriptures.
Yeah.
I follow the scriptures to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
All right.
I wasn't having a go. I'm just interested.
No. I'm just that's how I am. You know, that's just how I am. I'm not I'm not trying to antagonize you or anything like that.
That's fine.
Yeah. All right, but when you go into the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter, all right, you had Esau was a cunning hunter, all right, and he went out to hunt some meat for his father, some venison, all right, but Jacob went in there and he got the blessing, right? Now the blessing was to inherit the earth. That was the blessing, because when you go back onto Abraham, Isaac, and before, there was always a lineage of people that the Most High chose to be superior to other people. The proof of that is Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter and the 6th verse, when the Most High, whom the world calls God, and all of that, when the Most High said to Israel, he pretty much said, you are above all people are upon the face of the earth. So the Israelites are above all people that are upon the face of the earth. But we're in the lowest state right now, man. We're in our lowest state. We're in a state of enslavement, man. Right? Of which, the heavy thing about it, if you're not one of the elite banking families, you're a slave anyway. Because you got to pay taxes, and it's not like, if you go back into the times of the Dark Ages, like I was saying again, you know what the tax rate was in the times of the Dark Ages? Around about 5%. So everything you got from whatever you're building, whatever business you was, no matter how much money you made, you paid about 5% to the crown. And that was just, you know why you paid tax?
To be protected.
Exactly. So you pay tax so that the government can fight the wars whilst you're at home. That's the only reason you're supposed to be paying tax. So if you're paying 20% tax, right? And some people are paying 40% tax, all right? You're paying for all of those wars that are happening out there in the Middle East, man. That's your tax dollars, tax pounds, if you want to call it that. But like I was saying, back in the so-called Dark Ages, you was more in a tax bracket of like 5% and so on and so forth. But that goes to show you right now you're in a state of enslavement. Because you gotta pay tax on your car, tax on your house, right? Tax on your food that you eat, right? And then you gotta take 20% of the money you get out anyway. And what they want to do now, all right, just to further perfect their so-called enslavement, they want to have it to where everybody, you know what the mark of the beast is. You said you were kind of into the scriptures. Any of you know what the mark of the beast is?
The mark of the beast. It sounds familiar, but again, I would have to know the story.
Right. So the devil. Do you know what the word? I'm not. Just seeing where you're coming from and all of that. But do you know what the word devil means?
Oh yeah, I read that. It means. I actually read about that. I've forgotten, but I've read about it.
Right. It's very simple. The word devil just means deceiver.
Deceiver, yeah.
That's it. Just means deceiver. To deceive someone, to lie.
The deceiver, yeah.
Right? The devil is not in some hole somewhere underneath the ground, right? Working and pulling strings like that. It's not nothing mystical. The devil is on the earth. The devil is Esau. The elite banking families, they're devils, man. Right? Because they will come to you and lie to you and say that they're creating peace out there in the Middle East.
What can we
right?
do?
Huh? What can you do? Well, if you're an Israelite, you want to get into the scriptures. But if you're not an Israelite, go get a credit card, max the credit card out, because your society is done. Right? Your society is done. Right? There is no hope if you're not of the descendant of the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans. Like I said, we ruled all the world. Right? So our children's gonna come looking in every kind of form, but predominantly they're gonna look like Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Right? Because that's what the scripture says, that's what they was gonna be in the latter times. If you're not one of those people, you're going into slavery. It's that simple.
Does it have to be like that? Do we have to have some people be slaves? Make everyone be equal?
Well, hey, that's a good thing you asked that. Why can't everybody be equal? All right? Because God doesn't want it that. It doesn't matter how a man feels about that statement of equality. Remember, an equality is an illusion that the devil gave you. The elite banking families gave you the illusion of equality. Why? Because the elite banking families don't roll like the everyday people that you got out here, out in the public. They don't roll like that. Do you know how much the Rothschilds are estimated to be worth? 500 trillion. Now let me put that into perspective. 500 trillion, right? The American debt clock, right? All the debt that America's in right now is 18 trillion. The whole of America is 18 trillion, 18 to 19 trillion, right? And one family is worth 500 trillion, right? So you're talking about equality. The people that feed you equality, they don't deal with equality, right? Do you know why they tell you equality? So you don't come up and find them and take what's rightfully yours, man. They're worth 18 trillion because you allow them to print money, right? Now, the way money is created through debt. So every time you take a dollar or a pound out of the bank, you owe them twice as much, or 1.5 times as much. Sorry, 150, let's say 50% interest, 20% interest. Every time every time your government allows the central bankers to issue out money, you owe them money. You owe the elite banking families money. That's like coming back to that point I made. That's why Henry Ford said, if the people knew how money was created, they'll rise up against them. But see, he was part of the inside. That's why he was so successful. He was part of the inside circle, man. He didn't deal with equality. He didn't deal with equality, man. He was part of the inside circle, man. He knew the deal, man. He knew that there was kings on the earth and subjects. And when you go into the history of time, you had kings of the earth, where it was the Babylonians, the Assyrians, right? The Egyptians, right? Whether it was the Hamites underneath the Canaanites, the Philistines, whoever it was, right? They dealt with one thing. You had kings and you had subjects. And God, the man you know as God, which we know, we refer to him as the Most High within the scriptures, he deals with kings and subjects. That's just the way of the world, man.
Nice to meet you, man.
All right.
Go for my lunch, but it's
All right,
very
man.
interesting to talk.
All right, man. You was gonna ask a question?
So God is not all loving.
No. Hey, no. I'll prove it to you within the scriptures. I'll bring it out in the scriptures because I've been talking a lot. I really, this is gonna be in the book of Malachi, the first chapter on the first verse.
And listening to what you're saying, you're right on the money.
Right.
I believe in the scriptures.
Sorry.
I studied them.
Yeah, you gotta study the. Where you from? You're from America. You're from the
America.
States. All right. Okay.
We're
Cool.
headed
Man.
to Israel.
All right.
Yes, for a week. So listen to what he's saying. Listen to what he's saying. Do you accept a donation for your ministry?
I'll take the donation, but I'll send it to the elders. I'll send it to
What elders?
Yeah, what?
where?
the people, my teachers.
Who are your teachers?
Yeah, who are they?
The men at GMS. You been in New York?
No.
Oh, okay. They're in New York.
GMS?
GMS.
We'll look them up.
Yeah.
We'll look them up. We'll send
that
it to
sounds-
them.
Send it to
Then.
them. Send it to them. Send it to them.
Because truth is up. Yeah.
All right, man. Right. So this, hey, that guy would have probably been a Jake, man.
What?
He would have been. He probably was an Israelite, man. He looked like he was an Edomite, a so-called white person. All right. But the spirit he was coming in, he would have had to been an Israelite, man. All right. So this is in the book of Malachi, the first. See, it ain't all about perception. It ain't all about how a person looks. It's deeper than that, right? But ultimately, right, the Most High does love and He does hate. I'm gonna show you that in the scriptures, man. All right. Right. So this is the book of Malachi, right? The first chapter, and this is